Okay, hello and welcome back. Yes, I am actually streaming. I have been meaning to stream this DLC for at least a month. So I bought it, I pre-ordered it when the developers made it available, but I hadn't actually installed it or played it because it's a little more complicated than I used to, but I finally got around to it. Okay. So basically, in order to play the Derek DLC, Derek Suarez is a friend that you meet in Step 2, and you have to have the latest update for our life. And about installed in the latest DLCs if you have those and all of that. So I finally got that sorted. And basically what happens is you have extra moments that you can play, that you can select, that allows you to spend time with Derek. Information. Thank you for purchasing Derek's DLC. Here you can play 5 new moments centered around Derek. Also have a special epilogue in Step 4. To unlock it, you need to fulfill these conditions. Play all 5 of the Derek DLC moments, completing Soiree with Cove or by going alone is alright, as long as you finish the moment. Choose to remain in touch with Derek during Step 3, then you will have the option to play Derek's epilogue during Step 4. You can only have one epilogue per playthrough. Make a save on the epilogue selection page to reload there and pick another later. Derek's DLC can be a friendship or romance story. So naturally we're going to go the romance route for this. So I double checked which save I was at, because if you've already done the soiree, then you can't do it here. I really want to do it here, so okay, there we go. That's alright. So we're going to save. And I've seen the previews of Derek as an adult. Oh my gosh, he grew up well. So probably not going to get through all of these today. I may have to stop early, we'll see. But I will, my plan is to get through all of these, and then I will actually play through Step 3 on my off-stream. Because obviously the saves that I already have wouldn't account for these moments. So I'd have to play through them again. And you've already seen me play through Step 3, so there's no point. So once I've played through Step 3, then I will live stream Step 4 and pick Derek's epilogue. So here we go. Responsible. The pool of Derek's condo complex was a perfect setting for a late morning outing. It was early enough that the day hadn't yet reached its hottest, the air still held the crispness of morning. But in pleasantness, only you and Derek were there. Of course, given the location of the ocean, maybe everyone else who felt like waterside fun was at the beach. You usually were. The warm roughness of tiles felt odd on your bare feet as you walked further into the pool area. There's no sand to squish between your toes or sharp shells to avoid. You surveyed the area while Derek finished putting stuff away on a chair. Excuse me. The floor was sharpening sensors and the entire space was so orderly. Lounge chairs had a neat row of umbrellas spaced out uniformly. The depth of the pool was marked out in clear text along the sides. Every single element was intentionally and expertly crafted to be convenient for its human visitors. It was extremely different from the wild mistress of the sea. Alright. Okay, you like the plastic pools more, you like the sandy beach with welling waves way more, you like the pool and the beach about the same. You were a fan of either this pool or the beach. So, this player, if I remember correctly, is a water baby. we're going to ignore that last one. I have a D6, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here we go. Pardon me. Fine. You like the sandy beach with rolling waves way more. This pool was too tame, like with some kind of big bathtub, and the chemical smell was off-putting. I'd personally avoided the beach a few times. Beaches had so much more than just water. Where were the hidden treasures? The wide open space and vast horizon. This made sense when the ocean was a million miles away. You didn't really have a use for it, with the beach basically being in your backyard. Makes sense. This had been Derek's plan. He let you know about it ahead of time so you could be dressed for the occasion. One-piece swimsuit, two-piece swimsuit, swim trunks, a wetsuit. Here's the D4. 1, 2, 3, 4. One-piece swimsuit. And a t-shirt and shorts, a shawl cover-up, and you're comfortable in that. So I'm going to roll a d6, and if I get a 6, then I'll roll again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't feel like pulling out my d10. There you go. 3. T-shirt and shorts. The swimming gear was similar even if the pool wasn't. You felt prepared. Derek bounded up to his own swim trunks, flagrantly ignoring the no running signs in his enthusiasm. Yeah, there's a reason for those no running signs. Because those tiles can get wet and slippery, and it's easy to fall. What a cutie! I love the swim trunks.
Okay.
Watch, I'm gonna do a cannonball. Lucy knew he had your attention and took off to the deep end of the pool. He built up speed and then leapt into the water. His curled up body created a huge splash on impact. You laughed, you applauded, you smiled, you gasped, you dashed away from flying water. You cheered. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here we go. 4. You gasped. You're far enough away that only a few of the cold droplets landed on your arms. Despite Derek's announcement, it was so shocking how quickly he got from 0 to 100. He stayed under for a while longer. He tested for his bottom before he kicked himself back upward. When Derek's head popped out of the water, he swam to the edge of the pool and propped himself up with a grin. He watched you expectantly. Jumped in the pool, walked over to the steps of the pool to get in, found the edge, feet in, tucked himself in the nearest large chair. I got a D4, so 1, 2, 3, 4. 4. That's boring. We're gonna reroll. 2. Walked over to the steps of the pool to get in. You dipped the toe in the water first. It was cool, but not horribly, so you descended into the pool, letting yourself adjust to the temperature, and then made your way over to Derek. He slipped underwater once more to meet you halfway. As you enjoyed the moment, your thoughts go back to how you'd gotten here. Last night, Derek had clubbed with a different sort of request. Remember that his voice had been a mix of nerves and hope. He had a favor to ask, very unexpected for him. Derek's mom needed him to watch his older brothers in the afternoon. It wasn't anything out of the ordinary, but that was part of his problem. Lately, he had feared that his sports skills weren't as sharp as he wanted them to be. He hadn't been able to practice soccer or football without the distraction of keeping an eye on his brothers. His idea to fix this had been to ask for your help watching the kids. You agreed to be able to talk with him and his brothers so you could manage his brothers while he had a chance to focus on practice. That's how he explained it. You said yes, and your moms have been more than happy to let you spend the day playing support for Derek. They said it would be a good opportunity to take on some more responsibility. Sweetening the deal, Derek suggested they come by early so that you could both could hit the pool. Nicholas would be sleeping in, and Jorge could spend some one-on-one time with Mrs. Suarez. Jorge or George? I'm gonna go with Jorge because Suarez is Spanish. So far, the plan had worked out. I dropped you off about 15 minutes ago, and both of Dirk's brothers were fully occupied. Mrs. Suarez and Jorge were back in the condo, putting together an 800-piece puzzle on the kitchen counter, and Nicholas snoozed on the couch. Puzzles are fun. You had time to kick back before the moment came to be in charge of small children. The flashing time called you back to the present. Derek had climbed out of the pool. Doing a jump again. Want to join? Good question. Alright, here we go. Yeah, let's go. No, I'm going to sunbathe. I'd rather just watch. Nope, I want some laps. So 1, 2, 3, 4. One. Yeah, let's go. You copied Derek's exit from the pool. It took arm strength and caution not to scrape yourself on the texture of the concrete. Once on solid ground, you reversed away from the edge to give yourself enough space for a good jump. Twice ago, you and Derek made eye contact. You leaned forward, bouncing on the balls with his feet.
No worries.
I've already done one. It's your turn. Belly flop, backflip. Offer your hand to Derek so he could jump in. You simply jumped in. You showed him your cannonball. You walked off the edge into the water. Cartwheeled into the pool. Actions are all cool. Alright. Need a D8. There it is. Okay, so since there are 7 options, if I roll 8, I'm going to roll again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Walk out the edge into the water. Well, that's fun. Keep your posture casual like you were going on a perfectly normal sedate stroll on perfectly solid surfaces. You went over the edge, and just like a cartoon character who knows that they no longer have ground beneath them, you dropped like a rock.
Whoa!
You stretched out and reached up towards the surface, parting your arms to paddle over to dry ground. Derek was laughing boisterously. It was his turn next. At the curve of his grin and the lift of his chin, he looked to be in a mood to impress. His eyebrows drew together in deep furrow as he considered his lunch. Derek took a few bonus steps to the edge, jumped up, and tucked his body in. Like his previous cannonball, the energy went into a spin, and he flipped, making a full rotation before it crashed through the surface. The water droplets from the splash dazzled you as they exploded out from his impact. He swam under the water and only came back to the surface after he reached the wall of the pool. He snaked his hands up to the top of the tiles and pushed himself up so that his hips were even with the edge. He twisted and practically rolled out of the pool from there. You're up! Okay. Okay. Doing this again, but this time if I roll a 6 or an 8, I'm going to re-roll. 3. Offered your hand to Derek so you could jump at the same time. Oh. Derek accepted your hand eagerly and you ran towards the pool together.
Whoa!
Woo! You leapt and flailed your legs for a split second. Derek lifted your arms into the air and kicked your foot out before you landed in the water. You kept switching back and forth, turning between silly jumps and then more impressive tricks. From watching Derek slow practice dives to performing your own jumps, there was never a boring second. For several weeks, Derek called a break time, and you took a breather backstairs to the pool. You waited for your strained heart rate to even out from all the exertion. After the process fast, Derek spoke up. He pulled his fist to his cheek and thought, squishing his face slightly.
So...
Hey, I probably should have asked before, but have you never babysat by somebody before? No, is that bad? No, but how hard could watching a couple of kids be? Yeah, sometimes I babysit for some of my mom's friends. Is babysitting a dog count? You nodded yes. You shook your head. So that's 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sorry. Three. Yeah, sometimes I babysit for some of my mom's friends. That's cool. Having you on my team is going to be amazing. When it's a 2-on-1 game, it's rough. You'll even die. Right. You really fought for him given your own babysitting hurdles you had this summer. Eager to take on the job, hot nervous about being in charge, we're curious to see how the experience will go. We're prepared for it to be a pain, but we'll do it anyway for Derek. We don't know how to feel yet. Okay, I'm gonna roll a d6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if I roll a 6, I roll again. 1. Eager to take on the job. I wanted to give Derek some assistance and watch his brothers find it fun. After that interlude, you both continued to enjoy yourselves and your freedom until a little beeping alarm went off. That's time. I made his way to the lounge chair with his stuff and dug out a small portable clock. Paused until I found the stop button. Derek checked the time and narrowed his eyes at the glowing red numbers. He shot you a thumbs up.
Let's go.
Let's go up. He helped him gather the towels, grabbed the rest of his stuff, and then tried to drip as well as possible while rushing through the halls of the complex. When he reached his apartment, he dumped everything in his arms on the ground and scrambled to find his key. Just give me a second, I don't want to knock or anything in case Nicholas is still asleep. He spied his soccer ball keychain and snatched up his keys from where they were tangled in his towel. He inserted the key into the lock and bolted and shuffled inside the Suarez home. We had swiveled to face the two of you, gazes being drawn to the bundles of neon towels coming in. Mrs. Suarez and Jorge were sitting on the bar stools while Nicholas perched on the counter itself with an excited grin. They're working on a puzzle. On your left, Derek leaned closer and spoke under his breath.
I figured.
He's awake. With a blink, Nicholas scrambled on his hands and feet and zipped across the black marble of the counter. Tiny cardboard puzzle pieces scattered. Nicholas, the puzzle! Despite his frustration, the little whirlwind didn't seem to hear. He was on a mission to reach his bigger brother, not even stopping when he hit the end of the counter. Nicholas stumbled off the edge, and Derek instinctively moved forward with a gasp, dropping all his cool stuff except for the towel wrapped around him. Mrs. Suarez caught Nicholas with her forearms, hooking under his chest, snatching him from midair. She hugged her son, holding him securely against her body. A chorus of relieved sighs filled the room. Nicholas still paid no mind to the trail of disaster and began to squirm. He just wanted down already. Derek took another few steps forward, making his way over to the scene. Mrs. Suarez carefully held Nicholas out, her hands under his armpits, and safely set him down on his feet. Nicholas immediately wrapped his arm around Derek's legs. Derek chuckled while tugging up at his towel so Nicholas wouldn't pull it off. Hold on, Nico, you're going to get wet. Nicholas giggled mischievously and snuggled closer. Derek snuck a quick peek over his shoulder back at you and shrugged. Just as warned, Nicholas now had a damp splash on his shirt. Hey everybody, so Nicholas agreed you. You asked Jorge if his puzzle was alright. Nicholas, I'm here too, you know. He waited beside Derek quietly. Let's check in with Jorge. The counter was littered with pieces. You could see that there were large sections of the puzzle put together, and several scattered parts that had been broken back up into many individual pieces. Some had even been knocked to the floor, and you picked a few up to hand to Jorge. How's the puzzle? Jorge stared at the pieces pinched between your fingers distantly before accepting them. He sighed over the mess. Yeah, it's alright. Jorge nodded at you, appreciating that you had asked. He still seemed unhappy, but no major harm done.
Well.
Mrs. Suarez's tone was warm with a certain amount of humor to it. She rubbed her hands together and stood up. I have a feeling this happens a lot. Derek and Jules are in charge now. Make sure you listen to them. Jorge sourly picked up the puzzle pieces, but gave a garbled noise to signify he had heard. I'm going to head off to my appointment. She went to gather some things, so officially putting you and Derek in charge. But there wasn't 1 second to settle into your new position. We're going swimming! Nicholas looked up and stared with huge, shining eyes. Derek reflexively stiffened. How would he escape the puppy dog look? Derek's eyebrows creased, a small sign of nerves compared to the smooth, placating sound of his voice. No, even better! He leaned down and lowered his voice like he was about to share a secret.
I've got a plan.
We're going to go to the park. Nicholas instantly frowned. He wasn't convinced by Derek's act. He grabbed at Derek's towel. You were swimming. Yeah, but I'm not anymore. I'm going to the park and you can come with me.
No!
The little Suarez whined and stomped his foot. His hands balled up around the neon fabric. Harshly enough, he almost took the towel from Derek. I want to go to the pool. I want to see Jules' swimsuit. What? Derek's jaw dropped. Neither of you were prepared for that one. Wow, okay. Did you hear Nicholas right? You looked down at yourself, currently wrapped in a bright, fuzzy towel. You switched your gaze to Derek and his brother, your brain trying to make sense of what was happening. Why would you want that? Why does Nicholas want anything? Jorge rolled his eyes and continued mumbling into the corner. It was obvious to him, and he couldn't believe the rest of you were taking so long to catch up. Because Derek does. Interesting. I'm torn between these two. So, D4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4. He suddenly felt extremely bashful. Derek narrowed his eyes and whispered harshly,
Seriously?
Nicholas? Jorge, you're gonna put me into an early grave. He took a deep breath as he stared at the ceiling. It took him a moment to face you. His voice was firm for someone at his level of embarrassment. I must have said something about hoping you remember to bring your swimsuit. I was excited for us to be able to swim, so I did want you to have one. Nicholas does not actually want to see you in a swimsuit. He doesn't even know why he'd want that. He's just saying stuff. He scratched the back of your neck as he focused on anything other than Derek or his family. The apartment had some lights in. Wasn't not classic and certainly not awkward fits. He took another look at Nicholas. He crossed his arms high on his chest and squished his neck down far enough to rest his chin on his wrist. I want to go swimming. Pop intensified when he said it again. He was a very angry little baby. Derek tilted back on his heels once again, driven to look at the ceiling by the strain of this kid. You glanced up there yourself without thinking about it. It was a calm white color with a few white fixtures. When you squinted, you noticed something small and green. It appeared to be one of those sticky hands for kids. Was this another present from the youngest Flores? Tuned back into Derek. He appeared to have made a decision. Alright, I promise you can go swimming, but only after the park. We'll go to the pool as soon as we come back. With the promise officially made, Nicholas lit up. He smashed one of Derek's hands.
Let's go!
You gotta catch in the park so I can swim. While Nicholas celebrated, Derek closed his eyes and some of the worried creases on his face smoothed out. Derek, there's lunch packed in the fridge. Dad will be back before dinner.
I gotcha.
Gotcha. Thanks, Mom.
Have a good one.
Mrs. Suarez waved and collected the last of her things to place off of the side table. She ruffled Jorge's hair on her way out. You and Derek were alone with the kid. We should really stop losing puddles everywhere. Especially about the drops of water pooling at his feet. Good idea. You and Derek took turns changing. You went first while you could faintly hear Derek confessing on his brother's to listen to you too. You must have convinced them to behave for now, as neither Jorge nor Nicholas acted up when Derek took his turn drying off and clothing himself. You getting lunch from the fridge? I'm going to pack my gear. No problem. He walked casually to the kitchen. Jorge hadn't moved from his bar stool even once since he'd gotten back. Meanwhile, Nicholas followed Derek like a possessed shadow that was even more energized than the original. He zipped around, occasionally trying to place things in Derek's backpack for him. I think we got a case of serious hero worship here. So far, Derek had said no to the rubber duck, but he had agreed to bring an extra pair of socks that Nicholas had determined were absolutely necessary.
Okay.
He's got everything. Derek returned with a backpack in one hand and Nicholas's small hand in the other. We're going, Jorge. Ready, Joel? I'm pretty sure.
Sure.
He pushed away from the counter and finally hopped off his chair with the enthusiasm of a place of lips. You're going! Derek hit a smile at Nicholas's echo and ushered everyone outside. He locked the condo behind him and he began the trip to the nearby park. Yes, Derek is definitely the oldest kid. The park for the Suarez boys was the big park for your family. Their condo complex was only a short distance to the public outdoor recreational area your mom sent us drove you to. It was still a beautiful day outside and had only gotten a few degrees warmer from your morning swim. The field was bustling with other groups of people enjoying themselves. Derek led the way to a wide open part of the grass that no one else was using. He stopped in the middle of the field and turned 180 degrees to face the little boys behind him. He shrugged his backpack off his shoulders and dropped it to the ground. He kneeled down to root around inside it. Jorge and Nicholas waited in place for their brothers. Derek gathered a couple things in his arms before pushing off the ground with his knee to get up again. He held the football in his left hand and a soccer ball in his right. All right, Nicholas, Jorge, I've got to practice, but you can too. Which one do you want?
Okay.
Football! Real ball! Chris and I brought out their shouts. Derek leaned over to you and whispered with a laugh. He means a soccer ball. It's real because it's actually ball-shaped. That makes sense, especially the other kid that's really a bit younger. Is that a problem? They want both. Derek simply grinned. I thought so. He tossed Jorge the football first. Jorge caught it from out of the air with one hand and began to bounce it up and down in his fingers, feeling the weight a bit. Derek caught the soccer ball gently over to Nicholas, who watched his brother intently. Nicholas had to catch it with both hands. He wrapped his arms around the ball and hugged it to his chest. With his brother taken care of, Derek crouched again to reveal a third ball. He brought a second football. Derek had been prepared. He sprung back to his feet, another problem diverted. Jorge, Nicholas, you can use this half of the field. I'll use that half. Those can be your refs, so don't get too far from them, alright? Okay. Jorge tossed his football in the air, preoccupied. It spun in and arced downward.
Alright!
I'm gonna practice! Nicholas embraced the soccer ball tighter, pressed his cheek into it. He wondered just how he'd practice with it when the equipment was about as big as his head. The child looked completely content with the world, but Derek's eyes narrowed. Once again, he shared some Nicholas info into your ear. Watch him. It's not over. He copies what I said, but it's not what he means. He tried to peek at Nicholas. He appeared so innocent, touching his ball and staring at a patch of silver in the grass. He'd interacted with him enough to not question his potential for trouble. You make sure to keep an eye on the kid. I will.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jules. You're a lifesaver. Derek held his football in both hands and cheered. Bye, bros. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, bro. Derek put it in a smile as he picked up his bag, tucked his football under an arm, and jogged to the side of the field. He didn't have time to lose. So with the younger Suarez boys effectively turned loose. Jorge stared at you with uncertainty while Nicholas's mischievous smirk could only make you guess what he was thinking. You weren't going to make Mr. and Mrs. Suarez regret letting you come, and you especially weren't going to disappoint Derek. You were going to watch those boys. Time to be in charge. I'm going to play over there. He went vaguely to the opposite side of the field from Derek and trotted off to entertain himself. He wouldn't go without argument. Jorge wasn't the problem child. Exactly. When you saw him settle in, throwing around his football and chasing it, you smiled. You would only need to manage Nicholas. You aimed your grin towards him, but instead of being in the clover patch, he was missing. Snapped your head back and forth as you spotted him in a fumbling dash across the grass, struggling to keep his soccer ball from slipping out of his small arms. As I said to watch him, he really, really meant it. Sounds like it. Well, you just had to push up your sleeves. He wasn't the first troublemaker you had ever dealt with. He wasn't going to be the last. Ran over without a word. Nicholas, stop! Ran over and picked him up. Hey, come back here, young man. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Two. Ran over without a word. We're thankful for your longer legs since the kid was quick. There's a gap between the two of you and stood in front of him. You didn't look up until he bumped right into your legs. Nicholas snickered. He had tried to dash around you, so you had to shift to the left to block his progress. But then went right and he speedily sidestepped. Soon you both were going back and forth as though you were actually playing a game of soccer, and Nicholas was trying to get past you to score. The soccer ball tumbled from his arms. Hey, Nicholas, you're hanging out with me just like Derek does. Nicholas paused, finally interested. He raised one of his bushy eyebrows. He said the magic words, like Derek. You spent a lot of time coming to see me, remember? It's your turn to be the person I have fun with. Pretty cool. Nicholas's cheeky grin fell, but his eyes began to sparkle. One flung his fists in the air. Yeah. I'm hanging out with Jules. Within cheering, you sighed in relief. You didn't mention it. If you need Nicholas's attention, just mention Derek. Let's go back to the clothes match. That's a nice place for hanging out. Get him closer to Jorge. Even if the middle Suarez can manage himself, he shouldn't be entirely on his own. The only times your gaze strayed from the little Suarez was when you blinked or sent the occasional glance Jorge's way. Jorge continued to enjoy his time at the park without any need for assistance. He spent most of his energy on the mischief maker. And after smoothing out the initial bump of the afternoon, things evened out. These things were fine until the trial known as lunch arrived. Started with the reappearance of Derek. His presence sent Nicholas into hyperdrive. Sounds on the tips of his toes and he both his hands frantically. Derek's back! Tackled his older brother and lashed around Derek's left leg. Jorge, like half of the entire park, began to shout. He jogged over to see if any important updates were happening without him. Derek winked. Hey, bros.
What's up?
Hi, Jules. I hope you're doing all right. As he spoke, his back dropped to the ground, crouched over it, and scrunched up the packed lunches. It's all good. Oh, yeah. It's just great. I don't know how you do this all the time. He nodded. I'm having fun. He shrugged. So good. He gave a thumbs up and Derek grinned, very impressed. Yeah, it looks that way. Great job. Nicholas didn't attack me from behind even once. Derek set aside 3 paper bags in the grass, one from Nicholas, another next to Jorge, and a third went to you. Derek put the 4th lunch inside his backpack, then he pulled a water bottle out from it and closed the bag back up. Okay, Nicholas, you've got to eat now with Jules and Jorge. Nicholas clenched Derek's jeans more desperately as he whined. You're not gonna eat with me? Derek scratched the back of his head and gave a longing glance back to where he'd been practicing. Do you mind, Jules? I was hoping he'd had more time to practice. Bit his lip, hoping on his face. He had confidence that you could handle lunch alone. You should really eat lunch, too. It'll be fine, I promise. Nicholas's whimpering never stopped, being high-pitched background noise. Derek ruffled his hair. Hey, check this out. He picked up Nicholas's soccer ball and placed it on top of his own head. Nicholas's jaw dropped theatrically as Derek fully stood up while keeping it balanced.
Wow!
Nicholas cheered and jumped up and down, still holding on to Derek's leg. Derek bent his knees and then popped up fast enough to launch the ball in the air. He caught it on his head again. Ha! Nicholas let go of his brother to clap. Derek grinned at Nicholas, but his gaze took to you for a second. The show over, Derek inclined his head and let the soccer ball drop into his hand. He held it out to Nicholas. Make sure to eat a good lunch, okay? Then you can get back to practicing. Okay. Nicholas spoke into the soccer ball he had huddled to his face. He'd been starstruck enough that he couldn't disagree with anything his biggest brother said. Derek waved at you and Jorge, but Jorge knocked where he'd left his football, carrying only the water bottle with him. Jorge promptly took a seat in the grass by the lunch bag. Nicholas put the soccer ball on his head. It immediately rolled off. He just tried again. He reached over to the lunches. Each bag had a clearly written name in black marks and ink. Jorge collected his bag. You had yours, and attempted to give the last one to its proper owner. But Nicholas showed zero interest in the bag. You imagined he would have been more interested in Derek's lunch bag, even though they probably had the same meals. Jorge scoffed, knowing his brother was going to be difficult again. He took a sandwich from his bag. When left alone, you guessed it was sliced deli turkey, a pale colored cheese, and some veggies. With Nicholas clearly busy, you took the sandwich out for him. The sandwich was ham and some sort of orangey cheese, cheddar almost certainly. He offered the food directly to Nicholas, and he still didn't fight. He wanted to play. Oh, of course. You eat, I'll hold the ball on your head for you, deal? Nicholas chewed on the inside of his cheek while he carefully contemplated your suggestion. Then the focused look melted into a bright smile.
Alright.
He gave you a determined nod when he was ready to switch. His fingers fanned out as you reached for the ball and pressed it down into his messy mop of hair. Nicholas cautiously released the ball and he kept it firmly in place. He giggled ecstatically that he finally found a way to keep the ball up without using his hands. It just took another person to do it. Of course. He retrieved his sandwich and immediately stuffed a big bite into his cheek. Chuckling, he took a glance over at what Jorge was doing. Luckily, he didn't need a hand like his brother. He was already enjoying his sack lunch, so he decided not to squander the opportunity. He retrieved your own sandwich with your free hand and dug in. Definitely an interesting way to enjoy a meal break. Certainly. Finishing the last one of the square-shaped meal, you wondered if Mrs. Suarez had talked to one of your moms beforehand about lunch. The sandwich was made how you would have had it at home. She was either prepared or very lucky, but considering what her oldest son was like, you were guessing luck had nothing to do with it. Definitely. Along with the sandwiches, there were also bags of carrots, celery, and a few cookies. Between the three of you, it wasn't long before all the snacks were gone. With nothing left to nibble on, Nicholas yawned and curled up in the grass, cuddling a soccer ball against his chest. Jorge stood up, watching his little brother fall asleep. Until certain that Nicholas was down for the count, started cleaning up the trash. He admired the maturity he showed for his age. It wasn't just Derek who had that streak after all. He helped gather the trash when he saved up the Suarez brothers. Derek was the oldest and who his parents relied on, while Nicholas was the baby of the family. For a little kid, he was a force to be reckoned with. Jorge was the one stuck in the middle. I hear that. Okay. Seriously, thank you for helping me with this. Thanks for being such a good kid to babysit. Hey, I saw your football throws earlier. They were really good. I gave him a chance to spend time together. I gave him an encouraging smile. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if I got 6, then I roll again. 1. Thank you for helping me with this. Jorge almost dropped the plastic baggies and used napkins he was collecting between his fingers. He managed to gain hold of everything before it fell. He didn't know how to respond to your gratitude, and the longer he stood there staring at you, the more his flesh darkened.
Okay.
Garrett quickly figured back to what he was doing before. That's the subject there, but thought he deserved more praise. Absolutely. The park suddenly felt empty with Nicholas asleep. He took up a lot of space despite his tiny size. Chuckling to himself, he found a comfortable spot in the grass and scanned the area for Derek. He ventured outside from running in the distance. Even from here, you could tell that Derek was persistent about his practice. He went back and forth, repeating the same set of moves, reassessing and refining his form every time. So it wasn't long before he paused to wipe his brow with his black wristband. Derek happened to glance your way at that moment and realized that he had an audience of one. He gave a huge wave with both hands. So required, he crossed both his arms over his head. Before you knew it, Derek's strides were bringing him back over to you and his brothers. Phew, that's it. I'm going to be done with practice. I'm back. Welcome back. Thanks for watching, Jorge and Nicholas. I didn't mean for it to be so long. Hey, I finally got to be the big sibling. It was cool. The nonchalant way you put it, like it was a role to easily step in and out of, had Derek laughing hard. He collected himself, threw out the back of his neck. And I'm glad I could lend you that for a while. Next, he shifted his attention over to his brothers. Jorge gave a little wave. He'd been waiting patiently for his big brother to wrap up his conversation with you. We're going back. Jorge simply got up, not needing any more guidance, while Derek kneeled in the grass and as Nicholas out of dreamland. Single eye cracked open at first, and then they both popped wide open when he realized who was with him.
Derek!
Nicholas sprang off the ground, wrapping his arms around his big brother like a vice grip, and nuzzled into his chest. Derek gave Nicholas's head a single pat.
Let's go.
Practice was good today. Let's go home.
Let's go home.
Nicholas's hushed voice echoing his brother's put a warm smile on your face. Stretching your arms high overhead, you surveyed the area to make sure that nothing was being left behind. You were all clear, and it felt good to have another solo round of babysitting successfully under your belt. With the leadership, no one got lost, injured, swallowed something they shouldn't have, or even declared that they hated you for eternity. In your book, you'd say it went fairly well. The 15-minute walk back from the park passed by pleasantly. The late afternoon sun fell behind you, and your shadows stretched across the sidewalk. You wiggled your fingers and then exaggerated your hands' movements in order to watch the shadows change. Meanwhile, next to you, Derek was finally eating his lunch. Although he had to eat a sandwich with the hand Nicholas wasn't clasping tightly onto. Jorge entertained himself with the football he still carried. He periodically tossed it up into the air and caught it again. You could easily imagine how often the three of them had made this trip before, only the three of them. But you didn't feel out of place strolling alongside the group. It felt natural. Beaming, you found your day sailing on Derek again. You knew without a doubt that the way you felt was because of him. He was so good at making you feel welcome. In time, you made it safely back, and Derek dropped his bag on the floor with a quiet sigh of relief. Any hope he had to take things easy for a second immediately evaporated.
We're going to the pool as soon as we come back.
Nicholas's joy was palpable, parroting back Derek's promise from earlier in the day. As words dawned on him, Derek closed his eyes and breathed deeply. Yep, we are. Get ready. And that was all the approval Nicholas and Jorge needed. They both dashed off to their shared bedroom to get changed. Derek sluggishly opened his eyes. His tiredness lessened when he looked at you.
It's okay.
Practice is done. If you want to stay up here until your mom can come get you, that's cool. Derek gave a partial shrug and then ran a hand through his hair shyly. We don't have to go swimming again. I'm not going to be outnumbered by Jorge and Nicholas. But I don't want to hang out with you. The tips of his ears burned red at your declaration, but he didn't turn away from you. He spoke cheerfully instead. Thanks. You too, Jules. It wasn't much longer before the younger kids came running out to rejoin you and Derek. They both wore their neon-colored swimsuits and had towels wrapped around their shoulders.
Awesome.
Nice job. You even remembered your safety vest, Nicholas. Derek kneeled down to make sure the safety device was properly secured. Nicholas stood tall with his chest out proudly. He didn't fear the scrutinization. I did the straps for him. Perfect. Thanks. Jorge brightened just as his younger brother had. Standing back up, Derek shifted his attention to you. Some quick change strategy from earlier? Yeah. You dared not to get changed first. Derek nodded seriously when he returned to take over for him. He reemerged a couple of minutes later and diligently went over to the counter to write something down. Curious, he went closer. Just gotta leave a note so Dad knows where we are, then we can go. Oh, sounds good. We'd be worried if we didn't know where the kids were. Everything was squared away, as Derek was always sure to do, and the four of you marched right back out of the apartment for another excursion. By the time the distinct smell of chlorine tickled your nose, the sun had fallen low in the sky. Circled around some nearby lounge chairs, making them capable of keeping your things safe. Checking the clean water, you noticed that Jorge and Nicholas hadn't moved close to the pool yet. Both of the little boys were watching Derek like hawks. You picked up enough this afternoon to notice because Jorge didn't want to do anything without permission, and Nicholas didn't want to do anything Derek wasn't doing.
I'm on it.
Here I go! And Derek himself knew it too. He didn't keep them waiting. Derek offered his brothers an encouraging wave and strode over to the pool. Followed him into the water. Wait for me! Derek paused at the pool's edge and glanced over his shoulder. He beamed at you. Alright, on 3. 1, 2, 3! Simultaneously leapt into the pool, making a huge splash. For a few seconds, you made your way to the surface to take a breath. Derek, meanwhile, stayed under. The other swallows sounds followed. Jorge jumped in without any hesitation, but Nicholas sped right to the edge only to come to an abrupt stop. Toes pulled around the edge of the pool and foot were pressed into a tight grind. Nicholas tipped his head and stared down at the water, clutching his hands together. He was scared to jump. Nicholas would rather the pool come the rest of the way to him, but it wasn't being a good sport. Derek and Jorge popped out of the water with matching wet grins and trestlets clinging to the tips of their hair. Neither were surprised that they were missing their baby brother. All right. Woohoo! That was awesome. Nicholas's cry for help came out in tiny, impatient squeaks. He began wiggling in place. Derek chuckled and swam over to a shallower spot. The 6-year-old followed closely, tunneling along the edge. When his feet touched the pool's solid bottom, Derek stood up. He kindly held his arms out towards his brother.
This is gonna be
Come on
great.
in, Nico. The water's fine. Trusting him completely, Nicholas let go of his fear. He took a step over the side and walked into his favorite person's hole. Derek embraced Nicholas as he dropped against his chest. Then Derek slowly lured him closer to the water before he completely fell to let his little brother go. Nicholas bobbed under with a small splash and broke out again in an instant like a buoy, bursting at the seams with excitement. Nicholas made the most of his new floating freedom by dogpiling around the shallow end. Picking on Jorge, you noticed that he was sticking to the center of the pool. He bounced himself from the floor to the surface for air and then pushed back down to do it all over again. He went the whole road in a circle. Derek rested an arm across the pool's edge and took a moment to watch his brothers too. He swam over to Derek and fell against the wall with him. He closed your eyes and sighed. The water's temperature was pleasantly warm against the cooling evening air. Derek had his main focus on Stanley, but it spared a moment to tilt his head in your direction. A few beads of water trailed from his hairline down to the side of his jaw. Babysitting went as well as you thought, huh? Yeah, I think it went pretty well.
Honestly,
My brothers are fun. Some of the time. He chuckled at his own joke and ran a damp hand down his face to try getting at least some of the water off. The final rays of sunlight cast a warm glow on his skin and the pool sparkled as he finally turned his attention directly towards you. Derek's mouth turned into his usual wonderful smile. I don't know what I'd do without them. I think they're great. He sniffed at that. Good, because I think so too. Corey and Nicholas remained engrossed with their own watery adventures while Hugh and Derek kept track of them. They were in mid-conversation when the sound of footsteps echoed off the walls surrounding the pool. Derek shot an arm out of the water and waved at the newcomer. Dad!
Good evening.
Dad! Dad? All the Forest boys eagerly paddled over to the edge of the pool where their father stood. They moved together in the water with their heads beside each other and their legs kicked out behind them like a pile of steel pups.
Welcome home.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jorge. Mr. Suarez's voice was sweet as he observed his children's happy faces. Eventually he spotted you as well, and he tucked his fingers into the edge of his vest with vigor. Oh, this is a pool party today. You know, a party should have the proper food. Let's order pizza for dinner tonight. Yeah! Yeah! Laughing with excitement, Nicholas started smacking the palms of his hands against the water's surface, making several bursting splashes. Jorge flicked the droplets from the tips of his fingers at Nicholas in retaliation. Checking over the scene, Mr. Suarez brought a hand up and held onto his chin. He scratched at his beard with his thumb. Half cheese, half pepperoni for the first, correct? Yes! Pepperoni! Nicholas threw both his arms in the air as he cheered. Mr. Suarez nodded, pleased to go this one still had predictable taste.
Wonderful.
Okay, Veggie Supreme for Irene and I on the second. So let's gaze on Derek and you for the final decision. Suggestions for what the final order should be? Jules, you pick. You vote over closer to Derek because you thought about it. More cheese, more pepperoni, more supreme, all veggies, all meat, barbecue chicken, wine. Could I get something other than pizza? Doesn't matter to me. You pick. Derek, what do you normally get? Moved all up to Derek. All veggies. Derek gave you a big thumbs up for that.
So,
In full. Half cheese and half pepperoni, half supreme, and half all veggies.
Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you, children. I'll put this order in now. I'll come back to let you know when it's ready. But until then, continue to play. Thanks, Dad. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dad. Bye, Mr. Suarez. Mr. Suarez closed the pool gate behind him, leaving you kids to your fun. In Mrs. Suarez's absence, Derek took charge again. Alright, you heard it. Dad's ordering pizza, so I'll be there in like 30 minutes. So, think fast. What's the last thing you want to do before I have to leave the pool? Nicholas furrowed his brow, thinking as hard as he could. He scrunched his face together in frustration when nothing came to mind. Meanwhile, Jorge put a hand to his chin and tilted his head to the side. He stared up and opened his face as he considered the question. Hang on. My computer is being slow. Not my laptop, my PC. Okay, there we go. Okay, come on. There we go. Okay, let's open to the images decide. Well, they're distracted. You made the first strike and a splash pad. So, add a d4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4. Splash pad. Younger Suarez brothers may have been unsure or overwhelmed with how they wanted to spend their remaining pool time, but you weren't. You knew exactly what you wanted to do. Slowly angled your position in order, carefully deciding your plan of attack. Corner of your mouth bent, and he flung a mighty splash towards Derek. He ended up with a face full of water, and he sputtered before shaking it off with laughter. As he regained his composure, Derek brushed a hand down his face again to wipe some droplets away. Jules, I'm sure you're aware of what this means. Derek's stare narrowed with a fierce, amused look of determination. He matched it and gave an added, slow nod. I believe I do.
It's soft.
This means war. He swiftly sent a shot of water in your direction. Nicholas cackled at your exchange, and he started to excitedly beat the water's surface and sent droplets splashing in all directions. You twisted away from the impact, and the second the water settled, you struck. Pushing your hands forward, you sent another big wave crashing towards your brother. Derek sent splashes with full sands on each of his sides, juggling you and Nicholas. Nicholas pulled water, cupping it in his hands, and threw it into the air. The drop of seafood carelessly poured down on everyone. Nicholas was dangerous in this fight. He was willing to take a hit to get a hit. As a foreview, Jorge enacted the best defense strategy. Took a deep breath and held it while he slid under the water. Only his hands remained at the surface, and they rapidly splashed in all directions. Jorge's strategy kept you all on your toes in order to avoid a scatter shot. Whenever it came up for air, Derek made sure to be ready to take the shot. It was a grand battle. The four of you thoroughly enjoyed your time at the pool. It flew by so fast, they were surprised when you saw Mr. Suarez cruising down to the water's edge once more. Jenna's here, and even better, fine film. Yay! Dingus Suarez threw his wet confetti into the air one more time. Even his dad wasn't safe from it. Mr. Suarez took it in stride and wiped his glasses against his desk. Derek was out of breath, but he beamed. Let's go get some food. Yeah. Mr. Suarez led the way to the apartment, and the four of you kids marched with an eager spinning your steps. Despite being wrapped in towels, you dripped water the whole way there. The savory smell of hot cheese and garlic crust was there to greet you when you arrived at the door. You could hear the musical words of Mrs. Suarez, too.
Welcome.
Welcome home. Hi. Hi, Mom.
Hi.
Hi, Mom. Feeling a bit awkward and out of place, you gave a tiny wave. Mrs. Suarez didn't miss it, and her voice softened as she spoke to you first. Hello, Jules. I hope you had fun today. I did. We had lots of fun.
That's great.
Very good. Mrs. Suarez then went over to the kitchen where the food was set on the counter. She popped the boxes open and delightedly glanced over at her husband. This was such a good idea. Thank you. Mr. Suarez dipped his head in a tiny bow. He followed that by gesturing to a hand for food.
Well then.
Come get dinner, youngest to oldest order. Despite the order given, it was no surprise that Jorge was the one who moved first. He figured Nicholas would wait for Derek, even if he didn't have to. Jorge tore off a paper towel from the wall and used it to grab a slice of plain cheese pizza. He hot-footed it back over to the entryway, standing there so he wouldn't bring the water any further into the apartment. You can go next, Jules. It'll be easier that way. The food smelled even better up close. Slices were all veggie. Way back to the entryway with your dinner. Derek went next, turning over with Nicholas at his heels. He grabbed a slice of pepperoni and passed it to Nicholas. Derek then grabbed a slice of pepperoni for himself, but instead of going to the entryway, he went to an open space on the floor. He curiously watched as Derek laid his towel on the floor, then sat down on it, crossing his legs. Nicholas plopped down on the towel right next to him and started on one of his pizza crust corners. Stay standing with Jorge. It's all dirty. You don't mind eating on your feet, but you also didn't give yourself much time to think about it. Take a big mouthful, you focus on filling your belly instead. Finally, Mr. and Mrs. Suarez got their slices of pizza. They stood in the living room in between the spots their sons had taken.
So?
How did you spend your day while we were out? We did lots of things. In between taking big bites of pizza, the Suarez family started taking turns telling stories about their day. Nicholas recounted the events of the day with the most enthusiasm. Of course, it's Nicholas. Even though they were the same plot points from his brother's stories and the ones you witnessed firsthand, from his perspective the events were almost mystically amazing. Storytelling was hungry work, so the slices didn't last long at all. The food was chipped away piece by piece until everyone was stuffed. Nicholas lay down on the floor, legs stretched out and still wrapped in his towel. He was completely tuckered from the day. Mrs. Suarez swept him off the floor and held him under one arm. That time, come on, Junior.
Yes, Dad.
Nicholas accepted his fate, and his arms hung limply down. Jorge crumpled up his paper towel into a ball and tossed it into the trash, followed his dad. So, I'm assuming since he said Junior and Jorge is the one who answered, that means Mr. Suarez's first name is Jorge as well.
Thank you.
No, Gregorio. Okay. Mrs. Suarez watched him go with a gentle affection in her gaze. She patted her husband's shoulder as he passed by, and then strolled over to you and Derek. And thank you for a good day's work. I appreciate you both taking care of Nicholas and Jorge today. Her cheeriness reminded me so much of Derek. She pointed with her thumb over her shoulder. Dad and I will take them from here. Thanks, Mom. You could see the wave of relief wash over him as clearly as the actual water you had just swam in. I'll keep an ear out for the phone. Pamela said she'd call when they're on their way here to get Jules. Okay. After that, Mrs. Suarez excused herself to go help get Jorge and Nicholas ready for bedtime. When she did, I can talk, really. As he disappeared down the hall, Derek leaned back on the palms of his hands. He lazily rolled his head in your direction.
Hey.
We could get dressed again. Then would you want to hang out in my room until your mom gets here? Yeah, let's do that. You can get changed first. He stretched his legs out on the floor while he stood up. You could feel a slight ache in your muscles from today's activities. It wasn't bad. You'd given your all during your babysitting adventure. Excuse me. Gathering your things up in your arms, you left to get changed. It wasn't long before you and Derek went over to his room for some sibling-less free time. Derek opened his bedroom door and gestured for you to lead the way. You went in while he followed close behind, shutting the door once more. Look at all that sports stuff. Looks like there's some movies and some books. Your eyes widened as you scanned the small space. Usually you were outside when you hung out with Derek, but this was the first time that you'd been inside his room. Within reach was a neatly made bed with a bookshelf filled with novels. Very scattered soccer balls and footballs stuck out around the books and furniture. Things were arranged and organized with the same care Derek put into most things he did. If there was more time, you were sure there were tons more trinkets and treasures to spot here, like a game of I Spy. It wasn't big, but Derek made the most of his small piece of the world. Are you sure you have enough soccer balls and footballs? You pivoted on your heels to face him. Derek laughed and you put your hands on your hips and raised a skeptical eyebrow. You saw how things went down at Park State. I like to be prepared.
Anyway.
And I heard you should have at least 2 backups of stuff that's the most important in your life. When you put it like that, then no, I don't think you have nearly enough. We have got to fill the room with them. Both bent at the waist, giggling at the image. Composing himself, Derek rubbed at his eyes with the palm of his hand. Honestly, it's just an easy gift my relatives go for when they don't know what else I might want. At least I'll never run out of stuff to practice with. But anyway, sorry I don't have any chairs in here. You can sit on my bed if you want. Thanks, I appreciate that. Said badly, laying yourself nuts into the cozy blanket. Derek crossed his arms and laughed loudly. Sure, get comfortable. You playfully propped yourself up on your elbow and rested your chin on the palm of your hand. Derek crossed over to the foot of his bed and sat there on the end of it. His jaw stretched open in a huge yawn that he quickly covered with his hand.
Good job, team.
Phew, we're finally done. There was no missing the proud satisfaction burning in his green eyes, but you could also consequently see the places where he was wilting. Sometimes I'm kind of worried about how he threw himself wholeheartedly into things all the time. I hope I was at least helpful today. Definitely. His demeanor lit up as he pressed the palm of his hand into the mattress and leaned slightly in your direction. Embarrassed flush rose down your cheeks. Seriously, Jules, you were super helpful. Today was the easiest babysitting has ever been, and the most fun. I had no idea. I'm even more glad that I was there.
Same.
Me too. Derek stretched his arm high in the air and yawned again. His eyelids drooped as he turned towards you. Gradually, the carefree warmth faded from his demeanor. His face went into a quiet frown when his hands had returned to his back.
You don't have to.
You have to do it again, Jules. Whether it's a good time or a bad time, it's just a lot of time, and you have your own things to deal with. The brows bent a little at that. So in your head, you couldn't help but think about how much of Derek's days went to his brothers. It definitely didn't seem to match how things were with your sister and you. But then, as if summoned by your thoughts about him, the bedroom door creaked open just enough to let a giggling Nicholas slip in, his hands in the air. I'm dressed! The lad said the door swung fully open and Jorge marched in with an extremely annoyed scowl. He put his hands on his hips. He sprang up and kicked your legs over the side of the mattress. Lazing on the bed wasn't on the schedule anymore.
Oh.
Nicholas, we're playing in the living room, not Derek's room. Jorge reached for his younger brother, but Nicholas scurried up onto the bed. He warily peeked at Jorge from behind Derek's shoulder. Derek notably didn't say a single word, nor did he appear surprised about the intrusion at all. The only movement he made was a light pat on the mess of hair on Nicholas's head, like usual. What wasn't usual was a distant look on his face. He accepted the reality at hand, but did not welcome it. Mr. and Mrs. Suarez crowded into the room next.
Excuse us.
Sorry, Derek. He slipped away in a flash.
Yeah. No more.
Come on, Nicholas. Let Derek and Jules have some peace. The youngest Suarez stubbornly clung into Derek's arm. His cheeks puffed out angrily. Nicholas, go hang out with Mom and Dad. Don't you want to see them too? They missed you today. Don't you want to see Mom and Dad too? Come on, Derek. Nicholas loosened his grip as he shifted to get a better look at his big brother. Derek sighed spiritlessly. I do, but I have a friend over right now. I'll spend time with Mom and Dad and you later. Nicholas bent forward and grasped Derek's cat leg. He brought out the big gun and stared up at him with his most pitiful eyes and a matching pout. You know, Derek does what he's supposed to. You can be like that now, Nicholas. All focus shifted over to you in surprise, but the one you were focused on was the youngest one. Silently, he met your stare, and you could tell that he was mulling over your words. I know you can do it. For a second, you had a glimmer of hope that you could fix things for Derek, but as the moment passed, Nicholas still didn't budge from his spot. His grasp only tightened. Dang it, didn't work.
End of discussion.
Nicholas, we're reading the story right now. Nicholas angrily shook his head as she advanced across the room. She unapologetically peeled two small straws off of Derek. The young boy let out a high-pitched whine for the entire extraction. Jorge frowned sympathetically over the confrontation while Derek winced at the noise. When the deed was done, the middle son followed his mom out of the room. You could still hear Nicholas's piercing cry as he was carried away. I'm very sorry about the interruption. Continue as you were. None of us were ever here. He gave the both of you an encouraging smile before carefully shutting the door again. That's cool, but they give Derek space. If they expect him to help look after his brothers, but they also give him time to not have to be the responsible one, to just have fun. He was finally silent. Derek kept an eye out until he honestly believed that there wouldn't immediately be another sibling disaster. When he deemed it safe, he let out a quick sigh in an attempt to choke back a harsher groan. Derek fought back against the mattress with another hop and stretched his arm out at his side. His arm switched and his fingers curled into fists. There's never any privacy here. How am I still having to deal with these things, even after spending almost a whole day with them? He held your tongue, waiting patiently for him to get it all out. Derek muttered grievances under his breath with a harsh glare and at the ceiling for a good minute and screwed his mouth shut. At least your brothers don't think they're the boss like Elizabeth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 5. Awesome. I like that one. Closing his eyes, Derek let out a snort and then a short laugh. He rubbed his face with the palms of his hands. You got me there. So I think Nicholas might be getting close to that sometimes. Oh man, can you imagine them as a team? The world might really have to start revolving around them. As image vanished over down your spine. Crossing your arms, you frowned. Good thing Elizabeth doesn't like to be friends with people younger than her. We'd be doomed. Chuckling, Derek peeked at you through his fingers. His mood appeared leaps and bounds brighter than it was minutes ago. Evening his breath, Derek folded his arms across his chest and squeezed his eyelids shut. You could tell by the tension in his face that he was still bothered. He was thinking hard, searching for something.
Man,
I can make this work. A slow mumble was followed by a pause that had you intrigued. Then he jumped forward so he was sitting upright again. The grin you were so used to seeing was back in full force. You just want to go back to the pool? Nobody's going to be there this late, and my brothers are not going to be able to leave the house. We don't have to get in or even change clothes. I think it'd just be kind of a nice place to talk, and that sort of thing. With your gaze, Derek nervously rubbed the back of his head. You could tell that he was trying his hardest to be nonchalant. It wasn't exactly succeeding. Good thinking. All right. Derek whipped up to his feet and turned, holding a hand out for you to take. I have never lived in an apartment, but I can remember I think my parents lived in an apartment before they had my brother. But we've always lived in houses as far as I can remember, so I can't imagine how difficult it is to live in an apartment, especially with 5 people. Derek squeezed you back and helped pull you to your feet. Let's go. The door slowly creaked open as Derek peeked out. Double-checking that the coast actually was clear, he gave you a thumbs up. I don't see Nicholas. I think we're good. He returned his thumbs up, gently hoping that this wasn't the calm before the storm. Derek led you into the living room where you found his dad and Jorge sitting together on the couch. Hello, Mom has Nicholas in his room and Rex is in another exciting session of story time. Good, Jules and I are going to go down to the pool area to hang out. Is that okay?
Of course.
He chuckled, knowing exactly what Derek was trying to accomplish. Jorge was perfectly happy where he was with his dad, so he waved goodbye to you both. That's good that his parents are trying to give all the boys time alone with them. Don't keep Jules up too late. I won't. Thanks, Dad. Derek whispered with complete confidence. He gave your appreciation in an equally hushed tone. Thank you, Mr. Suarez. The last thing either of you wanted was to alert the younger Suarez that anything fun was happening without his knowledge, so you both silently slipped out of the apartment. Once you were free from the condo's walls, Derek's excitement was palpable. Picked up the pace and ran to race to the pool gate. For the third time in a single day, you and Derek set foot on the condo complex's private pool bed. You soon realized you hadn't seen everything it had to offer yet. Under the cover of night, the pool was completely aglow with white strands at the bottom. The bright blue circulars inviting breaths of steam drifted off the top of the water, whispering how warm it was. The closest space was clear of any other people, and it had been like that for a while, considering the stillness of the pool. Not a single ripple disrupted its awkward-ringing surface. Here, you'd have peace and privacy. Derek was drawn to the water like a moth to the flame. He wordlessly rolled up his jeans and tugged off his sneakers and socks, then dunked his feet right into the pool up to the middle of his calf. Stretched and wiggled his bare toes in the comfortable embrace of the heated pool on a summer night. He joined Derek at the end. Remove your own shoes and let your feet soak in the pool. It was pleasant as a sparkling experience promised. The water had none of the slight chill and the air did. It was the perfect amount of heat. Derek wrapped both his hands around the smoothed-out edge and tilted back. One of his legs kicked up as his back drifted down like his upper and lower body were each inside one bed of a seesaw. He grinned playfully at you.
But...
So, what were we talking about? Well, it's really not your fault. I only brought his torso back up until he was hunched over the water, stared down at it. All his hardness had disappeared in an instant. It kind of makes the whole interruption thing even more sucky, though. There wasn't any heart in it, but Derek managed to chuckle. Sorry for making my problems your problems. Dug his fingers into the side of his hair, scratching at it in frustration.
It doesn't matter.
I don't even know what my problem is. I came in the room for 5 seconds. I'm so dramatic. That's not dramatic, and it wasn't the only thing that happened today. Yeah. Derek crossed his arms straight and pushed them against the top of his legs. The blue water rippled around him as his legs moved against the pool wall. He pressed his heels into it. Pressure that had been only on the inside was coming out. It's just the thing is, Nicholas and Jorge need me all the time. My parents need me because they need me. I don't want to let them down. I really don't. But it's hard. Every day it's like I'm going to mess up and disappoint somebody. His tongue releases them from the locked positions they've been stuck in. I scrubbed the fur away from his brows.
Forget it.
Everyone has stuff to worry about. It's not just me. I have to take care of them way more than I do. And Dad works a job pretty much the entire day. Your family is lucky to have you.
I don't know.
I don't know why. He went silent, unmoved. Nicholas was the one who caused trouble, but somehow Derek had made himself the bad guy. It was upsetting, but Derek wasn't anywhere close to really being grown up. Of course he couldn't be perfect, even though he acted like he thought he should be. Derek, remember when your dad first came to the pool and you, Jorge, and Nicholas were all so excited? You were just like your brothers. Even if you're in charge sometimes, you're still your parents' kid. You don't have to act like an adult, especially not with me. Finally, slowly and carefully, Derek started to glance at you again. Thanks, Jules, for saying all that. His shoulders squished inward to frame his lowered head. He looked so much like a hopeful puppy that he could give even Nicholas a run for his money in the adorable face department.
Was it annoying?
It really doesn't bother you that I complain and sometimes hanging out with me means helping out with 2 other kids? All the confidence Derek had displayed when pushed into shove, he was pretty insecure by himself and what he thought of him. I'll babysit as many times as you need. Derek showed his full face to you. It was all lit up by the light shining through the water. The smile on his face was just as glittering.
Well,
I don't ever want to be a pain, but it's really cool. I have a friend who doesn't mind listening to me and being there. He didn't say that lightly. He only wanted to let himself be there for you and everyone else. Being somebody Derek could count on was special. You wouldn't let him down. Then his eyebrows furrowed mischievously, and just like that, he catapulted right off the tile edge into the pool. You gasped as if you were the one who suddenly got plunged under water. Derek burst to the surface with a loud, gasping breath. The water is great! Look at him laughter.
Great.
Everything's gonna be good, Jules. I'm not an adult. That was true. Before he could blink, he sprayed his already dripping face with another heaping serving of cool water. Oh, game on! He sent a wave over the edge of the pool and he scrambled away. He chuckled triumphantly. You might have the high ground, but I've got the resources. Splashing, sloshing water brought the once stagnant pool to life. You and Derek still had to fix yourself and made the absolute most of it. But eventually Derek crawled up the stairs out of the pool. His baggy clothes poured out many waterfalls with every step he took on land. Derek looked especially tiny with his jersey draped over his frame. Got to your feet and walked over to Derek, not wanting him to have to make the trip alone in that state. Gave you a thumbs up. Then he carefully took his head to the side and tapped his hands against his ears to get the water out.
Well,
Alright, time to face the music. Having to go home dampened Derek's mood far more than the water on his body. He could do anything here in the wide open pool with you as his only companion. Going back to his family came with countless expectations and responsibilities, but it still had to be done. Yeah. You gave a small nod, readying yourself for whatever might happen when you arrived at the Suarez condo. Without another word, you collected your shoes and you left the little oasis behind. Held each other's hands. The three fingers gripped you as tightly as they could. When you made it to the front door, Derek used the key from his pocket to open it. He hadn't forgotten to bring it, despite leaving at a rush in uneasy circumstances. Derek stood there in front of the unlocked door, just staring at it. Practical preparation was his forte, making himself ready for bumps in relationships was not. I've got your back, Derek. You can do it. Yeah. He took in a huge breath through his nose and turned the knob. The balloon room was quiet when you went inside. Jorge and Mr. Suarez had moved over to the kitchen and were busy putting together a puzzle. Mr. Suarez's shoulders blocked your view, so you couldn't see what the picture was supposed to be. Mrs. Suarez and Nicholas were nowhere in sight. You guessed they were still in the younger boy's bedroom. It was strange not to have someone cheer and shout when Derek walked through the door. There was a feeling of absence. You're back, he announced himself with an absolute lack of enthusiasm. Might as well have been calling off bingo numbers to an empty room. Mr. Suarez lifted his head and turned to face the both of you. At the same time, he eagerly pushed his chair away from the counter.
I see.
Thank you for coming home. The reading he gave was so normal, but it was weird, considering how Derek brought a bucket full of water absorbed into his clothes. Jorge offered a typical family greeting of his own, not taking his eyes off the puzzle. He was either focused or avoiding the awkwardness.
welcome back.
Derek silently poked a bare big toe onto the prickly and two-way doormat. The best Derek's foot was making this too much for the little mat to contain. Water leaked out from the edges. Derek's attempt to face his failing was going equally smoothly. The bright pleasantries on Mr. Suarez's face softened into warmth. Without his own emotion, he sighed and got out of his chair. Across the living room to stand with the two of you at the front door. My hard-working son is always in demand, Family needs to learn how to share, especially Nicholas. The last part was said with a little chuckle. Derek didn't smile from the compliment, but he did start to blush.
Excuse me.
A new voice came from the hall, and Mrs. Suarez stood there with her hands on her hips. Peeking up from behind the skirt of her dress was a thick, spiky nest of brown hair. Now that you're here, someone has something he wants to say to his big brother. The words got Jorge to actually turn away from the puzzle and watch the scene. But Nicholas remained hidden. Her encouragement wasn't enough. As always, he was waiting for Derek. You didn't need to tell Derek that, though. He knew it far better than you. Shifted his weight on his feet and gave Nicholas an invitation.
Okay.
What did you want to say? Nicholas started out from behind his mom with enough speed to flutter her dress. His tiny feet thundered over the floor until he came to an abrupt stop right in front of his favorite person. He had to lean his head all the way back to look into Derek's eyes. Derek looked down to meet the gaze. Nicholas resisted the urge to hug him and instead clutched at the collar of his own shirt.
I'm sorry.
That's your room. From how much Nicholas struggled to explain his apology, it was obvious he wasn't at a point where he understood why being together at all times wasn't a completely fantastic idea. All that had gotten through was that he'd upset his brother and that he had in turn upset him. Nicholas bit his lip and moved his hands to put the bottom of his shirt instead of the top. The best he could come up with next was simply repeating himself.
Sorry.
Derek's lips quirked just a bit as he patiently listened to his little brother. You should say sorry to them too. Jules helped you a lot today, too. Nicholas instantly twisted his head to cue and echoed the word. He was very serious. Sorry, Jules. I appreciate that you apologized. Nicholas hopped up on the pads of his feet as a nervous but hopeful energy came over him. The reaction was the first positive sign he'd gotten. Small sparks passed between you and Derek and Shirley. Let his shirt go and balled his hands into fists. I'm sorry, Derek. I'm sorry, Jules. Nicholas put everything he had into willing whatever problem caused to be fixed and into people not feeling bad anymore. The emotional display of regret moved someone in the room to speak.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, too. Derek snorted laughed, the unexpectedness of the interjection. What did you even do? I don't know. The middle child looked down at the puzzle in front of him again, but he was staring through the pieces as if they weren't there. He murmured just very loud enough to hear from where you were standing. You and Jules had to watch me today, too. Derek's hesitancy completely crumpled, and his usual familial dynamic came back in full force.
Aww.
Aw, Jorge, you don't have to apologize for that. I like to have some time by myself or with my friends, but I'd never want to stop having my little bros. Nicholas's massively wide eyes sparkled. For the first time since they were reunited, he carefully reached out to Derek and gripped his soaking wet jeans. Derek reached down to gently pat his baby brother's head as he did probably every day. Neither boy cared that this time the hand was damp. Instead, they both smiled at the other with unwavering affection. No matter what missions happened, it was inevitable that it would end that way because they both loved their family equally and deeply. Another person took a turn to cut in as Mrs. Suarez spoke up with vigor.
Let's race.
Derek, Jules, let's race. What? Derek chuckled at your confusion, switched his head back into a full-on hair ruffle. Nicholas giggled excitedly along with his brother. Dad is asking us to play a video game, an old kart racer he likes. Yes, and I will win it. Derek's dad cheerfully tacked that on. It couldn't be forgotten, clearly. Or he could be player 4. Mrs. Suarez was the only one who fully kept her distance during the reconciliation between Derek and Nicholas, and now she joined the rest of the family. When she was close enough to you and Derek to whisper, she pressed the hand to the corner of her mouth and winked conspiratorially. I'll give Nico an unplugged controller. Derek grinned at that point, insisted into giving the longest stretch of Nicholas's hair a friendly tug. But he didn't accept the invite immediately. He included you in the discussion. What do you think, Jules? Up to you. He nodded at you and turned to answer his father. Alright, let's race. This is taking a while, so I'll probably do... it's going to take a few sessions, I think. This is a great introduction to the family dynamic. Derek's mom encouraged you and Derek with her words, and Nicholas with her hands, taking him by the shoulders. This time, she wouldn't be letting him get away from her.
Go on.
You'll get changed. We'll plug it in so it's ready by the time you're back. Thanks, Mom. Derek's mood continued to be buoyed by the support of his parents, and he left to go get changed while walking as lightly as he could in his wet clothes. He didn't know where anything was. He had to leave the prep book to Mr. Suarez and Jorge. Two of them got right into it, opening drawers and pulling out cords. He found something to do by keeping Nicholas company with Mrs. Suarez, who was on his best behavior and didn't whine for Derek even once. And as promised, the Suarez's dark purple GameCube was fully connected with 4 controllers plugged in by the time Derek strolled into the living room. Familiar shout filled the whole room. All was right in the world. Yep, Nico, I'm here. Mrs. Suarez was on the carpet with Nicholas in her lap. She'd already passed him a controller, and he was having a blast pressing the clicky buttons, despite the fact they did nothing except make a little noise. Jorge and Mr. Suarez took seats on the couch. Jorge tucked himself closely against his father, so the two were only taking up one side. The other half of the couch was reserved for you and Derek. Derek dove into the spot next to Jorge, got settled in nicely against the back of the couch, and folded his legs up across the cushion. He got in the final place and relaxed against the armrest. Jorge passed one controller to Derek, which Derek gave to you. They handed over a second, which Derek kept. Mr. Suarez filled you in on a decision he and his second son had made.
What do you think?
Junior and I are on a team. You and Jules can play together. What do you think? Derek tilted his head your way. He lifted his shoulders and handed to his dad's briefing. It's a double racer. One drives, the other controls items. I love that game. You too. Me and you, then. The deal was sealed. Pacts had been made. Jorge perked up and shook Mr. Suarez's arm. Hey, Dad, we're Team Suarez. Yes, we are. Derek's fingers were on the buttons, and he was leaning over his crossed legs in anticipation for the game to begin. He replied, unbothered. Who for you guys? Team Hunt is a force to be reckoned with. All 4 players making up the 2 teams chose their characters, cards, positions, and the track set. To start, Derek and Mr. Suarez were driving. You and Jorge had item launching duty. 3, 2, 1! The carts launched across the starting line with both drivers getting an extra boost. Team Hunt and Team Suarez were right down the colorful Jungle Road. There would be 3 laps before the race was over. Lap 1 was a frantic race for the top spot. The cars were neck and neck to each other over every hill and around each curve, neither getting ahead or falling behind. Attacks were constantly exchanged and buttons were pressed at a rapid speed. That included Nicholas as he watched the race and tried to use his controller the way everyone else was. He wondered which part of the game he thought he was impacting. By lap 2, Team Hunt had taken a strong lead, almost nothing from the Suarez camp to reach your car. Once he passed the line to start lap 3, Derek was cocky enough to bring up the smack talk. I thought you were going to win, Dad. Mr. Suarez's expression was perfectly content. More than that, it was serene. And it was with that calm face Derek's father carefully reached across Jorge and then in the blink of the eye locked his large hand around the comparatively tiny controller Derek had. Hey! The cart you and Derek had went out of control, careening off the dirt path into the pit. Then you wait for the game to fish you out and place you back on the road. Team Suarez were right on past.
See?
I'm winning now. Derek's dad was boldly unapologetic. I love that. He grinned like a child who just found out you could get a home run at putt-putt golf if you just dropped the ball in the hole. You're cheating now. Derek sputtered with laughter made of equal parts amusement and disbelief. He yanked his arms towards his chest to fight for freedom, but Mr. Suarez's grip was unmovable. We're running interference, huh? From a distance, Mrs. Suarez mused over the situation that had begun to unfold. Her husband stole a look of where she'd been sitting. She was gone, leaving only Nicholas on the floor. Mr. Suarez lifted one thick eyebrow and pressed the other lower. He could only puzzle over what it might mean until it all became clear by the world going dark for only him. Derek's mom had crawled over behind the couch, popped up from behind, and tucked her fingers over Mr. Suarez's glasses. He caught completely off guard. His father started from the track with a surprise attack that wasn't committed by himself. Yeah, Mom! Derek hadn't gotten his controller back. Mr. Suarez was stubborn and had told, but his dad was just as incapacitated as the driver. Yeah, Mom! An echo of Derek's cheer came from behind. All the excitement in the air had turned to fire on Nicholas. He wasn't just playing with an off-controller anymore. He crawled on all fours at a rapid pace until he reached the couch and launched himself right at his dad's stomach. It was a powerful enough that Mr. Suarez sprang forward and Mrs. Suarez's hands were yanked off of him. Oof! But Derek's controller was finally freed, and Mr. Suarez had to let go of both controllers to catch his squirming child. Nicholas would not be contained. He climbed up over his dad's shoulders and wrapped his arms around Mr. Suarez's face. With sweet justice, the Team Suarez cart flew off a bridge into the abyss below. Yeah, Nicholas. Jorge placed his own controller in his lap with a shake of his head and a smirk. Team Suarez was winning this race. Derek rolled his shoulders and poked a tongue out of the corner of his mouth in concentration. He was back in business. The team hunt cart course corrected and raced towards the finish line of the final lap. The youngest Suarez tugged all four of his limbs around his dad, even tighter from the thrill of seeing Derek speed his car around the track. Yeah! Items weren't needed now, but you were just as invested in watching your cart make the last stretch. And Derek brought it home, crossing the finish line. We won! Derek threw his fists out into the air, pumped them back down to his chest, and turned to you with his palm held out for you to smack. It's good. You ignored the hand and plugged your arms around his neck. He squeezed you back, pressed his face into your shoulder. You were victorious. You won! Nicholas set his arms up towards the sky, a perfect imitation of his eldest brother. Mr. Suarez used the opportunity to collect his son from his shoulders and placed Nicholas into his lap. He petted his son's hair and he laughed restless, but full of joy.
Okay.
I lost. Next race. This time Derek repeated the phrase, still raring to go. But that was naturally followed by the original copycat. Nicholas stopped hastily and cycled up against the seat on his father's chest. Next race! Jorge picked up his abandoned controller once more. His voice was quieter, but no less sincere.
Yeah.
Next race. In all the commotion and completely forgotten, you could have switched to the driver role to take over for Derek at any time. Jorge could have too for his dad, but you were glad it went the way it did. Team Hunt got to its win with the assistance of team pile drivers, Nicholas and Mrs. Suarez, and the game was just getting started. Next race. Couldn't help join the pattern, except big smiles from the family.
Well.
Now this is a real party. There's still pizza in the fridge. Who wants leftovers? The suggestion of food riled Nicholas up even more. He clambered over his dad's shoulders for the second time, tugging on his beard and accidentally knocking his glasses off. Mr. Suarez wheezed out a chuckle. Nicholas stared out from over the couch into the kitchen. He wanted that pizza, but couldn't be the first one to ask. Pizza, please. Pizza, please.
Same.
Me too. Jorge and Mr. Suarez chimed in with their own request.
Sure.
Can I have some, Mom? I would like some pizza, my beloved wife who never turns against me. Hector with the glint in her eyes. Of course, start the game. I'll heat it up. All four of the Suarez men spoke in unison. Thanks, Mom. Thank you, too.
You're welcome.
Players all resumed their positions and took up their tools, slightly sweaty games with controllers. The second I started, the grin on Derek's face was one of the most radiant you'd ever seen the whole day. His dad, Mom, and brothers, too, really knew how to make Derek happy. That brought a smile to your face, too. From getting a window into Derek's life and from what you knew from your own, spending every day with the same people could take a lot of patience, but there were a lot of perks, too. The time at the Suarez household ended with family, food, and fun. There wasn't much more you could have asked for. Okay. Yeah. Alright. That's it for today. We will pick this up next time. I don't know when that'll be. Thank you for joining me. I never had to babysit my younger sibling. Mainly because we're all so close at age that there wasn't a point. And there weren't many kids in my neighborhood to babysit, so I've never really done that. The few times I did babysit, it was either with my family or the kid was older, so he wasn't a problem. So it was interesting. Okay, so that's it for today. I don't know when I'll next be streaming or uploading. But this is a really nice glimpse into Derek's life. So I hope you had fun, and take care, and see you soon.